Today, I'm going to give you a complete walkthrough of my weight loss journey of how I lost 15 pounds over the last 7 months, over 50 years old, when nothing else was working before that. Hey guys, I'm Suzanne, and I have been on a weight loss journey. I've been trying to lose 40 pounds since December of 2023. And I'm going to walk you through that entire journey in this video. I'm going to break this video into two parts because the first 10 pounds that I lost within a 1 month period. And I'm going to walk through all the different things that I changed to lose that 10 pounds so quickly. And then I'm going to walk you through the next 5 pounds that I lost over the past 6 months and exactly what I had to change and what I had to tweak along the way to be able to lose that weight. So in December of 2023, I came across a video on the YouTube channel Zoe Science, and they were talking about how blood sugar impacted whether or not you were able to lose weight. And they suggested using a hack that they studied and found that this hack actually helped people lose weight. It was only doing one thing different, and that thing was to make sure you had your vegetables or a starter before you started eating your main meal. That was it. That was the only thing you had to change. So for me, that meant instead of having my normal breakfast when I usually wouldn't have any vegetables at all, I had to add some tomatoes to my eggs and sausage. But what I found as I was incorporating this hack for every single meal was that over the next month, just changing that one thing alone, I was pretty much losing weight on mostly a daily or every other day basis. Now, there was one other thing that I did, and that was I did start working out a little bit more, not a lot. I was going for my nightly 30-minute walks. That was at a pretty low intensity, but I did start incorporating a little bit of weight training, and it's possible that helped a little, but I do believe it was mostly that hack that helped me because I continued to work out after that first month, and I found that that wasn't really helping me lose the weight. Now, the reason that I did this hack was because they promised in that video that I would gain more energy and that I would also get a natural appetite suppressant. So initially, I did not see the energy spike. I was still tired in the morning after eating my breakfast, but I did find that I started to have a natural appetite suppressant. I stopped craving sugar as much and the high carbohydrate foods as much, whereas before by like 9 o'clock, 2 hours after eating, before I would have been hungry again, I was finding that I was going a lot longer before needing to eat another meal. So that was a great benefit. It was almost like a natural Ozempic, and I was really happy to be able to have that natural appetite suppressant because it definitely made it easier to stay on the plan. Now, toward the end of that first month, I did start to slowly transition over to a more lower carb or even sometimes no carb diet. And that was because I'd started doing some additional research around blood sugar, insulin resistance, and learning more about how those things actually make it harder for you to lose weight over 50. And what I found through my own research was that if I would cut out a lot of the sugary carbs and any carbs that didn't have any fiber in it, that it was probably going to be easier for me to lose weight and to lose weight faster than what I was doing before. And eventually I got to the point where I was only eating 20 grams of net carbs per day. Now, I used an app called the Carb Manager to track that. It's a very easy app to use. It's a free download. And I was able to log and track the food every day that I was eating. And I started doing it so often every day that I found I didn't even have to track anymore because I knew exactly what foods I needed to eat on a daily basis. And eating those foods, I would be able to stay under that 20 grams of net carbs. I knew which foods, if I ate them, would throw me out of that 20 grams of net carbs. And so I would avoid those and try to stick to the foods that I knew were gonna keep me on my plan. So one of the things that I did in the beginning was I did check to see if I was in ketosis, because ketosis, which is basically being in a state where you're burning fat instead of sugar. It happens when you're not eating sugar anymore or you're eating a very low carb diet, but you want to be in ketosis because that is what helps you with the natural appetite suppressant. I found that I just wasn't hungry as often, I wasn't hungry as much, and that was definitely helping me on my weight loss journey. And it was helping me stick to the plan and eating the foods that I knew I needed to eat. So one way that I checked to make sure that I was in ketosis was I bought some keto strips. I opted for the urine strips over the blood test because I'm just not the type of person that's going to poke my finger for blood. And the urine test was actually very accurate as well. And so I found that it would take me 2 days from the time that I started eating my 20 grams of net carbs to show that I was actually in ketosis. And after doing that for a while, I also learned how I felt when I started to get into ketosis, because I definitely did feel different. There's a feeling like you're just not as hungry, you just don't really feel like eating. And so I knew whenever I got that feeling that I was definitely entering ketosis. So at that point, I stopped using the strips, and now I know exactly how long it takes me. I know what I have to do to get there. And that's what I do now. So I want to walk through with you on some of the things that helped me be successful on the ketogenic diet. And the first one was that I had to come up with a list of foods that I enjoyed that also fell within the plan of being under 20 grams of net carbs. So I watched different YouTubers, got new recipes, watch a lot of what I eat in a day videos, and I would try to find foods that I really enjoyed and figure out how I could make them within the keto plan. So for instance, I love nachos. One of the things that I found for that is there are these chips called Quest chips, and they're very high protein, but they're also very low carb. And so it's great because I can just take those instead of regular tortilla chips, and I can add on all my usual toppings, which are typically within the keto guidelines, like any type of vegetables, cheese, chicken or a protein. I can have guacamole, which is very low in net carbs. I can have sour cream. So all of the regular toppings do tend to be more keto friendly, but it's that base, that foundation. It's usually either the chips or the bread that you find you have to swap out with a keto friendly version. So I found recipes for all the foods that I love, very simple, very easy to make because I don't really like to cook. I like very easy to make things in the microwave, and I have come up with a list of those foods that I can eat on a daily basis or on a weekly basis, and it really helps me stay on my plan. Now, the second thing is making sure that I always have those foods in the house, because I found as I was going along in this journey that I would run out of these foods, especially when it was time for us to go grocery shopping. So we go grocery shopping every 2 weeks, but as we were getting to the end of that 2 weeks, I was finding that I was running out of things. And the problem with that is when I started running out of things, then I'd start going over to the foods that my husband or my kids eat, which are not on the keto plan. They just eat regular foods. I follow my plan and it works out great, but I have to have the foods that I need in the house to be able to do that. Now, another thing I had to do was I had to find substitutes for my guilty pleasures, like chocolate, chips, keto snacks. So a couple of the alternatives were I had to swap out my coffee in the morning, which were more like a mocha, which is basically 3 tablespoons of hot chocolate, which came to about 500 calories per day. That's a lot of extra calories for me being 50 and not being able to lose weight. So I was able to swap out my regular coffee. I came up with a recipe that is keto friendly now, and I actually did a video all on that. You can check it out. It's called My Keto Friendly Coffee. If you are a person like me who just has to have your coffee in the morning and maybe even likes to drink it throughout the day like I do. For snacks, I swapped out for things like nuts, the Quest chips that I just told you about. There's a lot of keto friendly foods that you can buy online. They can be a little expensive, but if you need like a sweet treat or something, or like a protein type bar or a keto friendly type bar just to kind of get you through until your next meal, there's a lot of options for that. And for chocolate, I actually substituted for Lily's no sugar added chocolate, and I find that it doesn't spike my blood sugar. It's very tasty, and it falls within my 20 grams of net carbs if I eat it within moderation. I also find that I don't crave to binge chocolate when I'm eating that type of chocolate, whereas when I used to eat regular chocolate, it was really difficult for me to stop eating the chocolate sometimes. And then the last thing I did was I had to find some fast food or restaurant substitutes because I do love to eat out. I love to enjoy meals with my family. At least once a week we go out as a family. And so I had to figure out how I could swap out some of the different ingredients, some of the different foods to make it to where I could still enjoy those foods, but be able to stay within my plan. So a couple of examples of that was I would get the gyro at Arby's, and I would basically just take everything inside of the gyro and I would just take out the pita bread, give it to my kids or my husband. I would take that Arby's meat with the sauce and the vegetables that were a part of it, stick it in that lettuce bowl, and it was just delicious. To tell you the truth, I didn't even miss the pita bread. Another restaurant that I enjoyed eating at was Chipotle. And Chipotle typically has rice and beans as a staple of each bowl, or they may add a tortilla if it's a burrito. So what I did was I asked them to just layer and line the bowl with a lot of romaine lettuce. And then on top of that, I would add their seasoned spicy steak, a lot of cheese, and some green and red pepper. And that's extremely low carb. It's delicious. It's a meal that I really enjoy. And so again, it just helps me stay on that plan. If I'm going to a restaurant, I will try to find a meal where they have mostly a protein staple. So for instance, at Cheesecake Factory, they have the chicken Madeira, which is mostly 2 chicken breasts. It is sauteed in a very delicious sauce. It has mushrooms on the top. They do give you a side of mashed potatoes. I will either eat maybe like a bite or 2 of the potatoes, or I will just choose not to eat them at all. But I'll always try to opt to get a meal that has more protein, more vegetables versus a large portion of carbohydrates. Now that doesn't mean I don't ever eat a full normal portion or meal at a restaurant. About once a week, I will have a cheat meal or a celebratory meal where I will just eat whatever comes with that meal. I will enjoy it. And then the next day, I just move on. I start over again on my low carb plan. I go back to eating my normal foods. The key is really making sure that even if you have a cheat day or you go off the plan for some reason, maybe you just have a moment of weakness, that you make sure you get right back on that plan. You don't stay there for a long time. The next day you wake up and you say, okay, I enjoyed that. It's over. I'm moving on. So some of the other things that I did that helped me lose that next 5 pounds are that I started working out more. I started incorporating 3 to 4 zone 2 cardio workouts, which are more low intensity, but they are more difficult because they're longer. And I also made sure that I was lifting weights at least once a week on every single body part. And then I would also include a 30-minute interval training sometime during the week. Now, I'm not perfect. I don't always meet that during the week, but that is my goal. I also tried to really focus on hunger and fullness. So being on the keto plan is not really magic. If you eat too many calories on it, you will still either stay at the same weight or you will gain weight. So it's important to always keep in mind, always calories first, no matter what plan you're following. And so I'm really trying to stay focused during the day on my hunger and fullness. So when I wait till I get really hungry in the morning, I don't eat my breakfast until then, and then I will eat enough to where I feel satisfied. Not full, not stuffed, but satisfied. And then I will wait again until the next time that I get hungry, and then I'll have my next meal, which will usually be about 4 hours or maybe 5 hours later. Now, one of the things that gets me off track occasionally, and used to get me off track a lot, was emotional eating. So I used to go to food a lot to try to cope with negative feelings that maybe either I had from work or from home. You know, we all have stressful days, stressful moments, and I had to learn how to deal with those emotions rather than going to food for those. So one of the things that I do is I use a journaling technique that I learned from Paula B. She's on YouTube. And what I do is I write out a couple of questions that I have to go through, and then I follow that up with a 2-minute breathing exercise where I do some deep breathing and try to just let go of those negative emotions. So the questions I ask myself are, one, if you eat this, will this help you meet your goal? Well, the answer is always no, because my goal is to only eat when I'm hungry. And typically when I'm having the urge to emotional eat, it's because I'm stressed, not because I'm hungry. So the answer is always no to that. And then the next question I ask is this helpful? Like, is this going to get you where you want to go? And the answer is always no. I will also ask myself, what just happened that made me feel like I wanted to eat? What was that negative feeling I had? What was the thing that just happened before I felt that way? And I'll try to write that down as well so that I'm making myself more aware of how my subconscious thoughts are pushing me to eat emotionally. After that, then I will just sit back, close my eyes. I take myself through about a 1 to 2 minute breathing exercise where I just let go of all of those negative emotions. I allow myself to let go of control, and then I go back to doing whatever it was I was doing before I had that urge. Another thing that helped me with my weight loss was changing my mindset. So I came from the 80s and 90s where the diets that were pushed were more high carb, low fat, which is completely opposite from what I had to do to lose this 15 pounds. So there was also a negative stigma toward Atkins and like a ketogenic diet over those years. And so I kind of had to get comfortable with being on a low carb diet. I had to retrain my brain to where I was comfortable eating that way. So a couple of the things that I did to feel more comfortable was I asked myself, how do you feel when you're on this plan versus when you're on the other plan? Well, when I was on the other plan, I would get migraines. I would feel low energy through most of the day. And I would always feel like I was out of control, like I was craving more sugar. On this plan, I don't feel as hungry. I can go longer without eating. I feel great during the day now, and I never get any kind of negative physical symptoms like migraines or anything like that, unless I go eat out at a place where maybe there's a lot of sodium in the food, and then the next day I will wake up with a migraine. But when I eat my plan at home, the foods that I enjoy and that I eat on a daily basis, I find that I just tend to feel great day to day. So after analyzing that, I realized my old mindset really didn't make sense and it really wasn't serving me. So now I just follow this plan. I believe in it. I'm losing weight on it. I feel better on it. And so that's what I'm just going to continue to do. I also had to look at this from a long-term perspective. So it was easy pretty much to lose that first 10 pounds in a month, right? Because it was pretty quick weight loss. But over the next 7 months, it took me to lose another 5 pounds. It's really slowed down. And so I've had to learn to have patience and also to believe in the process that if I just keep sticking to the plan, that over time with consistency, I'm going to continue to lose weight. And as long as I'm continuing to lose weight over a monthly basis, I'm going to continue on this plan. I also enlisted the help of a mentor, a weight loss mentor. I joined a group. It's a group that I found out about on YouTube. And it's a lady who coaches a 3-week course, and she has a Facebook group, and we all just motivate each other and get motivated by each other to stay on our plans and stay on our workout plans. And that has really been helpful. It's helpful to be in a group where the people in there are like-minded. They all want to lose weight, no excuses, no giving themselves too much grace, but actually just being honest with themselves about, I want to lose weight, and I want to stay accountable, and that worked really well for me. Now, there were a few mistakes that I made along the way, and so I want to share those with you so that you won't make those as well. The first thing that I did a lot in the beginning when I was doing low carb was that I was flipping back and forth between low carb, high carb, back and forth. And every time I would go back to high carb, I would notice that my weight would either stagnate or it would start going up again. And that was my cue that I needed to get back on plan. But I learned through that process that if I did go off the plan, I would see what the result was from that, which was typically negative. And then I would say, okay, I'm going to go back on the plan tomorrow. And then when I would start doing that and doing it consistently, I would find that my weight was going back down again. So that process of analyzing day to day, like what did I eat? Did I go to the gym? Like what types of things tend to make my weight go up? What types of things tended to make my weight go down? I was really studying everything I was doing and seeing what kind of results I was getting from that. And I was able to really fine tune my plan. So now I know exactly what I need to do to lose weight. The second thing was sometimes I would have too many cheat meals during the weeks. So I found if I had one cheat meal a week and I was on plan the rest of the week, I would typically be able to lose weight. If I had 2 meals, then I would usually maintain. And if I had 3 cheat meals, I would tend to gain weight. So that gave me good information around how much I could really get away with. And we all have to figure out how much we can or can't get away with so that we're making sure that we're not keeping ourselves from making the progress that we want to make. I also had to completely eliminate any trigger foods in the house. So I used to keep chocolate up in a cupboard that I had. I had to completely get that out of the house, and I replaced it with the Lily's chocolate. And now I don't have any issues with binging or going and eating too much of a certain food because I just don't keep it in the house. And then I also make sure that I keep the foods that I do want to eat in the house. Make sure that I always have them so that I don't run out, because I will tend to go and start eating the other food in the house if I find that I don't have the foods that I need in the house. So within the last couple of weeks, I have been able to lose an additional 2 pounds, which is a total of 17 pounds. I got into the 150s for the first time in many, many years. I feel great. I feel better just by following all these different things that I've told you. So if you're on a weight loss journey and you have found that it's just been impossible for you to lose weight, I really encourage you to give these tips a try. Just follow it for a little while and see how it works for you. And I hope it does work for you. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know how it's going for you. And I have many other videos on weight loss and my weight loss journey, so you can go ahead and check those out as well. Otherwise, I'll see you next time.